Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode will be somewhat different from our regular format, and today we will explore the ways in which Hollywood bends the truth to build suspense and craft dialogue. Breaking Bad is no doubt one of the most successful TV series in recent history, and the grit and tenacity of the show managed to garner an audience of 10 million watchers over the course of the show's run. But for all of Breaking Bad's success, there are many elements of the show that the producers got wrong, particularly in regards to the legalities of play and how the various police officers conducted themselves. For those of you who haven't seen Breaking Bad, the show centers around Walter White, a high school science teacher who transformed into a kingpin drug manufacturer after being diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. Walter teams up with an eccentric low-level dealer named Jesse Pinkman and begins his rise very early in the show. Throughout the show, Walter struggles to hide his doings from his family and maintain his blue-collar lifestyle. One member of Walter's family that causes him the most anxiety is his brother-in-law, Hank Schroeder. Hank is a DEA agent who has unwittingly found himself on Walter's trail, but has no idea that Walter is the kingpin he had been tracking. In the scene we are going to break down, Agent Schroeder tracks the RV that Walter and Jesse were using to make drugs to the lot of a local junkyard, and with Walter and Jesse hiding inside the RV, decides to try to conduct a search. Agent Schroeder is interrupted by the owner of the junkyard, Joe, who questions the legality of Schroeder's conduct.
You got a warrant?
Well, I don't need one if I've got probable cause, counselor.
Probable cause usually relates to vehicles, is my understanding. Traffic stops and whatnot.
Agent Schroeder is correct that if he had probable cause, he would not need a warrant to search the RV. And Joe rebuts by saying that probable cause only applies to traffic stops. However, this is incorrect. Probable cause is a legal standard that must be met before a police officer can make an arrest, conduct a search, or receive a warrant, and it is not exclusive to traffic stops. The probable cause standard draws its roots from the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, which has a clause that states that, quote, no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Although the Fourth Amendment established the concept of probable cause, it did not define what it actually is, and the Supreme Court has tackled the issue of defining the parameters of probable cause many times. In the 1983 Supreme Court case of Illinois versus Gates, the court noted that probable cause is a practical and non-technical standard that relies on the, quote, factual and practical considerations of everyday life. There are no straight-line rules for probable cause, and each court is tasked with considering the totality of circumstances when deciding whether the standard of probable cause was met whenever an officer makes an arrest or conducts a search, or when a judge or magistrate decides to issue a warrant. If courts determine that no probable cause existed when an officer made a warrantless search or arrest, then any evidence resulting from that arrest or search will not be admissible in court. As mentioned before, each court may come to different conclusions about whether probable cause existed to make an arrest, and some courts have less stringent requirements for police officers to meet. We will discuss whether Agent Schroeder actually met the standards for probable cause in a moment, but it is important to know that probable cause applies to all police encounters, not just traffic stops.
These round rubber things, this is a vehicle.
This is a domicile, a residence, protected by the Fourth Amendment from unlawful search and seizure.
Although there is no universally accepted definition for a domicile, there are certain criteria that outline what is legally considered to be a domicile. Oftentimes, the phrases domicile and residence are used interchangeably, but the meaning of these two words are very different. A citizen can only have one domicile, and there are several steps that must be taken in order to change where a domicile is located. However, a citizen may have many residencies. A domicile has a legal connection to land, and anyone who lives in an RV full-time is still required to establish a domicile in the state that they pay taxes to. A residence refers to a structure or a vehicle in which a citizen lives, and in this case, is the RV that Walter and Jesse are hiding in. It should also be noted that RVs are considered vehicles under the Code of Federal Regulations, and Black's Law Dictionary defines a vehicle as every description of carriage or other artificial contrivance used or capable of being used as a means of transportation. Joe also mentions that because the RV is a domicile, which it is not, it is protected under the Fourth Amendment from unlawful search and seizure. It is true that domiciles are protected from unlawful searches, but that protection is not exclusive to domiciles or residencies. The Fourth Amendment's protections extend to all private property and citizens themselves. Whether an officer searches you, your car, or your home is irrelevant if the search is unlawful. And as mentioned before, the Fourth Amendment requires that any evidence that is seized during an unlawful search to be thrown out. Just when Joe thinks he has Agent Schroeder cornered, Schroeder removes the patches of duct tape to reveal bullet holes in the door of the RV. Walter instructs Jesse to ask Agent Schroeder how he would have known that the holes were there without removing the tape, and Joe concurs.
Probable cause needs to be readily apparent.
Probable cause exists when there is a fair probability that a search will result in evidence of a crime being discovered, and it must be supported by the facts that are readily available to an officer. The moment that Agent Schroeder removed the tape from the door, he became engaged in a search, which was not supported by any probable cause. Probable cause does not work retroactively, and Joe is right that Agent Schroeder is required to establish probable cause before removing the tape, and cannot acquire probable cause from an unlawful search. There are some exceptions to the doctrine of probable cause that may allow for an officer to admit evidence of an illegal search or seizure if he made a mistake, but did so in good faith. For example, when a defect renders a warrant constitutionally invalid, the evidence does not have to be suppressed if the officers acted in good faith while carrying out the search. The courts grant officers significant leeway to make mistakes in the field, and unless it is blatantly obvious that an officer maliciously conducted an illegal search or knowingly violated a well-established right, there's a good chance that a court would admit the evidence acquired from an unlawful search. The good faith exception is highly circumstantial, and different courts would likely render different rulings based on the evidence at hand. Whether or not bullet holes in the door of an RV would be considered probable cause is debatable. The bullet holes in the RV could have been there when it was purchased. The RV door could have been removed at some point and used for target practice. That door could have come off of a completely different RV and was only being used until a new door could be ordered. There's no specific timeline for when the RV door was shot, and Agent Schroeder had no way of attaching those bullet holes to a specific instance of criminal activity. All that said, an officer's experience bears significant merit to a court, and there is still a chance that a court would find that Agent Schroeder made an honest mistake by removing the tape from the door, and that the bullet holes did grant him probable cause to search the RV. Agent Schroeder ultimately concedes to Joe's points and decides to get a warrant for the RV, but also decides to wait on the scene until one arrives. Walter then concocts a cunning diversion that ultimately forces Agent Schroeder to leave, and you'll have to watch the series to find out how the two escape.
I have the most current information, sir, but I think you might want to get there as soon as possible.
A majority of Agent Schroeder's conduct was questionable, and Joe was right to question the legitimacy of his investigation. Although Joe's dialogue was full of misinterpretations about the law, it still serves as an interesting plot development, and the resolution of this encounter was interesting, to say the least. It is no secret that high-production shows and movies often alter the realities of a situation to enhance its entertainment value, and for good reason. The legal process is riddled with mundane procedures and complex technicalities that require a deep understanding of the legal system, and those aspects of real life are difficult to translate into an entertaining series or movie. Breaking Bad is certainly not the only work of cinema to misrepresent the legal system in police work, and even the more accurate movies and shows are guilty of exaggerating the prosaic nature of real-life policing. I'm considering making a series that highlights these inaccuracies in popular television shows and movies, so let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this type of content. I would also like to give a big thanks to Henry, the subscriber who submitted this interaction for review, and to the channel Larry Mo Curley, who also covered this scene. Be sure to check out his channel to see his interpretation. Let us know if you have a scene you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more police interaction content.